It's May, which means it's 151 years since the Levi's 501 was first invented. I know, it's surprising, isn't it? And we're gonna do something today that people have been doing for 151 years, which is go and buy Levi's shrink-to-fits. But it's sort of this lost art. People don't really get how it works. So I will be your guide. We're gonna go to Supply Sergeant in Burbank. Always good to go to an Army surplus store for this stuff. And then we'll come back to mine. We'll hang out. This is YouTube. This is a YouTube video. So the extremely abbreviated version of Levi's history, if you care to hear it, is 151 years ago, May 20th, 1873, Levi Strauss and Jacob Davis filed a patent for the riveted waist overall, which would become Levi's jeans. I was able to go to Levi's archives and see some really cool, some really early Levi's. And the shocking thing about the Levi's 501 is that it really has not changed a crazy amount in the 151 years it's existed. Cut is more or less the same, and there are these minor differences, you know, over time. And there are nerds that go over all of that stuff. The years it changed, the years it changed. But if anybody tells you with 100% certainty that like, this is the year that the 501 changed in this way or it changed in this way, they are full of shit. Because Levi's is a business. It's not a museum. And since the dawn of the organization, they've had multiple factories. A lot of this history predates, you know, convenient communication. So you'll have jeans from the 50s that have 40s details. You'll have denim from the 70s being used up until other points. It's really hard to say with 100% certainty that any certain pair of Levi's is from a certain era or anything. It got a little easier in the 90s, and then in the 2000s, Levi's moved all their production overseas, or almost all their production overseas. Now it's entirely overseas, which, as much as I love my friends at Levi's, is a huge detriment to the organization, and I think is something that should be changed. But we today are getting some 501 shrink-to-fits. So you want to buy a pair that's too long. That's the first thing. So if you're a 32 inseam, you want to get a 34 inseam. You either get your actual waist size if you want them to be slim on you, or if you want a little more room, get one or maybe two sizes up even from your regular waist size. I have gotten too thick for my last pair, so yeah, it's a no-go. I think I'm gonna go two sizes up. I feel like if you're patient, a place like this is where you can find actual treasures. Like old Made in USA stuff will sometimes be at the bottom of the piles here. Any place where they don't really give a shit about you, it's a good place to look for Levi's. And today, this is probably as good as it's gonna get, but that's fine, because we're just showing you how to shrink them. Doesn't need to be fancy, doesn't need to be crazy. Shout out Modelo for this. I wish I had beer, but I guess I'll do the Aguas Frescas. It's with the utmost pleasure today that I'm talking denim with you. It is so good to be back. Burbank was hot, and also it's Burbank, so it's, you know, tough going under the best of circumstances. As some of you may or may not know, those vintage pairs of 501s that people love so much that are light blue like this and torn up, they started life as a dark blue raw denim jean. So doing something like this is the best bang for your buck that you can get buying a new pair of jeans. Raw denim, shrink-to-fit especially. So this is a pair of 501s, a size 32 waist, 34 inseam, which is normally what I would wear. It's a pretty good fit everywhere, but the problem is with a shrink, it's going to get shorter, which is okay, but it's gonna get slimmer everywhere. And I'm gonna show you what a pair of 32s shrinks to. And this is a pair of 32s that I shrank down in January, because when I started working with Levi's, I thought, how cool would it be if I had a pair, I got really good fades on it, I could show the story, but it may look okay, but to me, it doesn't feel great. It's a little too tight in the thigh. An important jeans fact is that the thigh is the only part of 100% cotton denim fabric that will not stretch. That's not gonna change. If you have jeans that are uncomfortably tight in the thigh, sell them, don't wear them. It's just a no-go. Some differences you can see in the fabric, if you can see the light here. Before the fabric is shrunk, it's kind of this gray color. And after you wear and wash it, it becomes a lot more blue. Eventually, you get to this color. I mean, and it can take years, which is why people love vintage Levi's so much, because to naturally do that, it takes a lot of work. And that's why it's kind of crazy sometimes to buy pre-distressed denim, because it's like, You shaved 10 years of life off a pair of jeans and you're paying full price. That's like buying a new car, but you ask them to break the windshield. So before I show you how the size 34s fit, and they're not gonna fit great, spoiler alert, they're gonna look bad. Before I show you those, I have two more pieces of evidence to support why I think that was the right size. The first piece of evidence is the jeans I was wearing earlier, the vintage pair, which fit me really well, are a tag 35-36. Now let's look for some more clues here. Open the jeans and we look inside of the tag. It's a 501-0000, and that means that these were shrink to fit. The numbers after the 501 are the wash code. These were made as a size 35 and then they were shrunk down. But we have our measuring tape because we're smart, because we're not sheeple, and we think for ourselves. We do our own research. So these are 16.5 on one side, which means that they're a 33 waist. So they've shrunk 2 inches in the waist to a 33. And there's some room in the waist on these. These are a little, slim in the thigh on me, but the waist is not too tight. So if it comes into a 32, that'd be perfect. My second piece of evidence, Levi's has a sub-brand called LVC, which stands for Levi's Vintage Collection. And this is a pair, they're calling it the 1955 501, which obviously doesn't mean that all these details did not exist in the 1954 501 or the 1956. But all that is to say, this is a modern Levi's jean that is taking a lot of cues from vintage garments. And I took a 34 in this. These are shrink to fit. I soaked them once, washed them once, and they're a pretty perfect fit. They're not too tight in the thigh. They're really solid. Let's see the 34s on. I told you, they're not going to look good. It's just not going to be flattering. It's just, I'm being vulnerable with you guys. So like I said, these don't fit that great, but that's the point. It's okay, stupid. So look, they're long, too long, 34 inseam. They will shrink up in length for sure. They are too big in the waist, and that means we can nuke them. Hot water in the washing machine, and then I'm gonna put them in the dryer for good measure. You would almost never do that with shrink to fits. If you have skinny legs, for example, and you find a pair and they fit you really nicely in the waist, and they're just kind of big everywhere else and long, put them in the bathtub. You don't need to sit in them. Turn them inside out, put them in the bath. I would say like lukewarm water to cold water, even if you're worried about them getting too tight, and then just agitate them in the water, leave them in there for like 30 minutes, just you go back and you mix it up and you leave them, and then hang dry. The colder and less agitation you get, the less something will shrink. The hotter it is, the more agitation, like the washing machine or the dryer, that's where you're gonna see a lot of shrink. Because these are so big on me, we can go crazy. We don't have to be careful. And that's kind of the nice thing. Oh, addendum. Raw denim leaches indigo dye. So if you're putting it in the washing machine, don't put anything white in there. Also, maybe don't sit on a white couch at the start. Your white sneakers, they're gonna get a little blue. It won't last forever, but at the start, so wash with light colors. Piña. Let's get a beer while we wait for that. I've been feeling so out of sorts with trends and stuff this year, or this season. It just feels like all the people that talk about trends right now, it feels like they're either talking about something that happened last year and the year before, or it just seems like they're making shit up. I don't know. I mean, maybe this is what happens when you work in this long enough. There's these weird fuckboy mood boards where guys with weird haircuts hang out, and if you put on an outfit and it's ugly, it's either ugly in a way where it's just a bad outfit, or it's ugly in a way where people are like, oh, that's fashion. It's never just some shit you'd wear to Target. It's some fucking bullshit. It's always some bullshit. I don't want to sound too much like man yells at cloud. Maybe I'm depressed. Maybe it's just I'm depressed, but I have so little bandwidth for it. And it's making me feel like I don't really know what I want to say this year. If some new TikToker's like, here are the shorts you need to have, it's the same shorts as last year.
Where do you draw the line between taking chances with your fashion and someone just looking stupid?
The only thing you're taking chances on is whether or not you're wasting your money. You know, I think there are like the things that will always be cool. There are the things that people are always gonna want to wear. And then there's just shit they make up to make money, you know? I need a beer. Sorry I was ranting earlier. I've been under a lot of stress. All this jeans stuff, you know how much that takes out of a man? I feel like it comes in waves, like being stoked about clothes. And it's totally okay to not feel stoked. And when you don't feel stoked, you just have to double down on the shit you like. But then the weird part is when you double down on the shit you like, you realize a lot of the shit you don't like is sort of extraneous. And also, if you're like out here buying stuff long enough, you check a lot of the boxes. It's hard, someone has to be pretty smart to trick you into buying a new thing. I'm just skeptical. I'm cynical. I don't know what it would take for me to like try some dumb new thing. We did it. We shrunk them down. I mean, they're still a little long, but compared to how big the waist was before, they actually fit me now. And I'll be honest with you, they are a little damp still. And I could probably shrink them even a little bit more if I wanted to, but that's the majority of the shrink out of these. We went for max shrink with the hot wash and the hot dry. Why did we do all this? What is the deal with shrink to fit? Why is that happening to us? A good chunk of time from the Industrial Revolution, which is when mass-produced cotton became a part of our lives, until 1930-ish, most cotton fabrics did this. They shrank. There was a process invented by a man named Sanford Cluett. It was patented in 1930. That sanforized denim, that pre-shrank denim. So all the stuff you wear now that comes ready to go, that is shrunk down and is wearable, that has been sanforized. It's when either a garment or just the material that a garment is made out of is exposed to like intense heat and pressure and steam, and it gets all of the shrink out. So this is just kind of a more old school way of doing it. This is how all garments were before the 30s. And a big part of the reason that Levi's were sexy historically was because of the shrink to fit thing. Skinny jeans did not exist, stretch denim did not exist. If you wanted jeans to really cup you in certain places, you shrank your jeans crazy. And teenagers did this in the 40s and 50s. Cowboys did this. A lot of famous pictures you see of people wearing really fitted 501s, it's because they went crazy on the shrink. It's just this really historical, amazing way to wear your clothes, and it makes a mass-produced garment a lot more unique to you. So thanks for joining us. I hope that you try it out yourself. Before it was up to like there. Also the watch. I got this watch from the last one. Remember that? It's a callback, bitch.